Mike Tyson was born in the worst neighborhood of New York. His childhood was brutal. His mother was addicted to drugs. His father abandoned him. The streets raised him. Everyone said he would become a criminal, a statistic, a waste. But he became the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. A legend. Why? Because he refused to let his past define his future. But here's what I want to tell you. His pain didn't excuse him. It didn't give him a reason to hurt others. It became his fuel, his motivation. And that's the difference between people who break free and people who stay broken. I'm telling you this because I made the same choice. And my childhood was designed to break me too. My name is Ahmed. I was born in 1986 in Syria. And like Mike Tyson, I was born into a cage. But my cage wasn't made of concrete and poverty alone. It was made of ideology, of control, of violence dressed as discipline. Let me take you back to 1990-something. I was a child, maybe 6, 7 years old. And in Syria, childhood wasn't what you might imagine it to be. It wasn't about play and innocence. It was about obedience, absolute obedience. The education system was militarized. Every school was run like a barracks. Every teacher was like a drill sergeant. And every student was expected to be a soldier, not a child. I remember the first time I was beaten by a teacher. I was in elementary school. I made a mistake on a math problem. A simple mistake, the kind every child makes. But in my school, mistakes were not forgiven. They were punished. The teacher called me to the front of the class, in front of all my classmates, and he beat me with a stick. Not once, not twice, many times, until my hands were bleeding, until I couldn't hold a pencil. I remember the other children watching in silence, too afraid to speak, too afraid to help, because they knew they could be next. The worst part? When I went home and told my father, he didn't console me. He didn't call the school. He beat me again, because in his mind, I must have done something to deserve it. And now I had brought shame to the family by crying about it. You see, my father wasn't a bad man. He was a good man raised in a bad system. His father died when he was young. He was an orphan, and he was raised by the same brutality that I experienced. He knew nothing else, so he passed it on to me, not with malice, but with the belief that this is how you make a child strong. This is how you prepare them for life. This is how you teach them discipline. And here's the thing. For many years, I hated him for it. I swore I would never treat my own children this way. I swore I would break the cycle. But somewhere in my suffering, something changed inside me. The pain didn't destroy me, transformed me. Every beating taught me something. It taught me that life is not fair. It taught me that people who are hurt often hurt others. It taught me that strength is not about never falling. It's about getting back up after you fall. Most importantly, it taught me empathy. True, deep, bone-deep empathy. When I saw another child being beaten, I felt their pain in my own body. I understood their fear. I understood their shame. Because I had lived it. I was living it every single day. So instead of becoming bitter, I became sensitive. Instead of becoming cruel, I became kind. Instead of becoming a victim, I became a witness to other people's suffering. And I decided that if I ever had the power to help someone in pain, I would. That's when I started working. I was 6 years old when I first realized I could earn money. My mother baked sweets, traditional Syrian sweets, and I had an idea. What if I sold them? I was 6 years old. 6. And I was already thinking like an entrepreneur. I took those sweets and I walked the streets of my neighborhood. I would knock on doors. I would carry them to school. I would sell them to anyone who would buy. I didn't have a childhood like other children. While they were playing, I was working. While they were sleeping, I was thinking about how to make money. But I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like I had discovered something. I felt like I had power. For the first time in my life, I had control over something. I could earn money. I could buy things. I could survive without asking my father for money. And that was freedom. That freedom became my drug. I was addicted to it. So after the sweets, I moved on to boiled corn on the cob. I would go to the market early in the morning. I would buy corn. I would boil it. I would salt it. And I would go to the streets and sell it. Summer after summer. Year after year. While other children went to the beach or played football, I was selling corn. And my classmates made fun of me. They called me poor. They called me a peasant. They said I was wasting my time, that I should focus on school, that I should be like them. But I kept working. Then I moved on to collecting aluminum cans, plastic bottles, anything with copper, anything that could be recycled and sold. I would dig through garbage. I would walk the streets at dawn. I would collect trash that people threw away, and I would sell it to the recycling centers. This sounds degrading, yes? This sounds like I was humiliated, yes? But you know what I learned? I learned that there is no such thing as degrading work. There is only degrading thinking. When I was digging through garbage, I was not a beggar. I was not a failure. I was a businessman. I was collecting inventory. I was sourcing materials. I was solving a problem. The only shame would have been to sit at home and do nothing, to accept poverty as my destiny, to believe what everyone told me about who I was supposed to be. So I rejected that shame, and I kept working. By the time I was in middle school, I was working in restaurants. I worked in kitchens. I washed dishes. I cleaned floors. I served food. I worked in hookah bars serving shisha. I was 13, 14, 15 years old. While my classmates were studying for exams, I was learning how to run a business, how to treat customers, how to manage money, how to survive. And then came the biggest opportunity. During my summer break before university, I secured a job managing a car wash at a restaurant's garage. This wasn't just washing cars. This was running an operation. For the first time, I experienced what real freedom felt like. Financial freedom. I was making more money than grown men who worked for the government. I had my own money, my own power. But with that freedom came a problem. I became arrogant. I started to look down on people who didn't have money. I judged people who I thought were lazy. I believed that if you were poor, it was your fault, that you deserved it. I forgot about my own poverty. I forgot about my own struggle. I forgot where I came from. This is a dangerous state to be in, because you stop seeing people as human beings. You start seeing them as failures. I went to university to study law. Everyone told me it was a practical choice, a safe choice. But the moment I started studying law, I realized something. The law wasn't about justice. The law was about control, about power, about protecting the rich and punishing the poor. I watched my professors teach us laws that didn't make sense, laws that contradicted each other, laws that everyone knew were unjust but nobody questioned them. And I realized that my classmates didn't see this. They accepted everything they were told. They memorized everything. They regurgitated everything. They didn't think. They didn't question. They didn't rebel. I sat in those classrooms and I felt nothing but contempt for them. They were sheep, and I was a wolf. So after 2 years, I dropped out. I told my family I was leaving university. I told them I was going into business. They thought I was crazy, but I didn't care what they thought. I rented a small shop, 1 meter by 1 meter, barely enough to fit me inside. And I started selling mobile phone accessories. This was the era of Nokia, the beginning of the mobile revolution in Syria. I bought accessories in bulk. I sold them at a markup. I made profit. I expanded. I was finally becoming the businessman I always dreamed I would be. But then something happened that I didn't expect. The system came for me. You see, in Syria, if you want to run a business, you need permission from the government. And that permission comes at a price. A tax here, a bribe there. And if you don't pay, they close you down. I was visited by officials. They told me I owed taxes, huge amounts, taxes that made no sense, taxes that would destroy my business in a day. I refused to pay. I told them the amount was unjust. I told them I had receipts. I had proof that I was being overcharged. They smiled at me, and they said, "That's not how it works here, young man." That's when I understood something crucial. The system wasn't designed to be fair. It was designed to be controlled. And I had no control. That's when I made a decision. I would join the internal security forces, the police. I thought if I was part of the system, I could change it from inside. I could protect people like me. I could make things fair. My father was against it. He hated the military. He hated uniforms. He hated authority. But I didn't listen to him. I was young. I was arrogant. I thought I knew better. I joined, and they sent me to training. The training was hell. I'm not exaggerating. It was psychological and physical torture. For an entire year, they woke us at 4 in the morning. They made us run until we collapsed. They made us do push-ups until our arms couldn't move. They screamed at us. They insulted us. They treated us like animals. And the purpose was clear. They wanted to break us. They wanted to strip away our humanity. They wanted to make us into machines. Machines that follow orders without questioning. Machines that obey without thinking. I hated every second of it. But I completed it. Because I was stubborn. Because I was determined. Because I had learned from my childhood that pain doesn't kill you. Pain makes you stronger if you choose to let it. I graduated from the training. I became a police officer, and I was shocked by what I saw. The system was even more corrupt than I thought. Officers would arrest poor people for minor crimes. But rich people, people with connections, people with money, they walked free. I watched a rich man beat a poor man on the street. I arrested him. I brought him to the station, and within hours he was released. Because his father knew someone important. I watched a woman being arrested for stealing bread. Because her family was starving, and she was sentenced to jail. I watched police officers accept bribes. I watched them plant evidence on innocent people. I watched them torture suspects to get confessions. And I refused to participate. I refused to arrest people I knew were innocent. I refused to accept bribes. I refused to beat suspects. I refused to follow orders that I knew were unjust. Every time I refused, I was punished. I was beaten by other officers. I was locked in solitary confinement. I was degraded and humiliated. For 3 years I endured this. 3 years of constant punishment for doing what I thought was right. And then they fired me. They said I was unfit for duty, that I couldn't follow orders, that I was a liability. I was relieved. I thought I was finally free. But 3 days later, I received a notice. I was being drafted into mandatory military service. 2 years. No exceptions. No mercy. The system had decided to punish me. This was their way of breaking me, of teaching me a lesson. Those 2 years were the worst years of my life. I won't go into details, but imagine being imprisoned with people who have absolute power over you. Imagine being degraded every single day. Imagine being tortured for refusing orders you believe are wrong. I was beaten. I was tortured. I was locked in cells. I was made to stand for hours without moving. I was made to watch other soldiers being tortured while I was powerless to help. And through all of this, I made a promise to myself. I promised that I would survive. I promised that I would not break. I promised that I would not become like them. Because I had learned something crucial from my childhood beatings. Pain doesn't break you unless you let it break you. Yes, my body was broken, but my mind, my spirit, my will, those remained intact. And when those 2 years ended, I walked out of that prison. And I decided something. I decided that the system had taken enough from me. It had taken my youth. It had taken my time. It had taken my opportunities. But it would not take my hope. My past didn't excuse me from the future. My suffering didn't entitle me to hurt others. My pain didn't give me a reason to give up. But it did teach me something invaluable. It taught me that I am stronger than I thought. It taught me that I can endure anything. It taught me that true strength is not about power. It's about choosing to remain human even when the world is trying to dehumanize you. And most importantly, it taught me empathy. When I see someone suffering, I don't look down on them. I see myself. I see my childhood. I see my struggle. And I feel their pain in my bones. That's the lesson I want to leave you with today. Whatever pain you've experienced, whatever brutality you've suffered, whatever system has tried to break you, You have a choice. You can become like them. You can become bitter. You can hurt others the way you've been hurt. Or you can become better. You can transform your pain into compassion. You can use your suffering to help others who are suffering. There is a hidden power inside every human being. It's called willpower. It's called stubbornness. It's called the refusal to be defeated. As long as you keep feeding that power, no matter how many times you fall, no matter how close you come to death, you can get back up. You can survive. You can rebuild. And if you have people around you who love you, who want you to survive, who believe in you, then you can do more than survive. You can thrive. In the next episode, I will tell you what happened after my military service ended. How I started from zero, how I rebuilt my life, and how I discovered who I really am. If my story has touched you, if it has resonated with you, I ask you to subscribe. Join this community. Be part of this family. And please share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your story. Tell me your struggles. Tell me what you've overcome. Because in sharing our stories, we remind each other that we are not alone. Thank you for listening to my journey.